similarly to other content that I've made for games like DMZ and Zombies, this will be a series of videos for ARC creators that I'll make with the idea of being able to finish quests and missions in the game from a solo perspective. Of course, this will always be easier with teammates because more hands carry a lighter load, but the idea is always to try and be able to do this solo as well for cases where you can't actually find a teammate to help you out. Now, the first couple of missions in the game are very straightforward, and your hand is held very tightly because they can be very much considered almost like tutorials. So while they are not very complicated and hard to do, I do still believe that there are some hints that I can offer you, and this video covers the first 3 missions, all 3 of them basically coming from Shani in the underground. The first one being picking up the pieces, the second one being clearer skies, and then last but not least, trash into treasure. The first things first, picking up the pieces. While originally we can only see that the task is to visit any area on your map with a loot category icon, this is actually a 2-piece mission, with the second part of the mission opening up as soon as you do that first visiting part. Now, the visiting that we're talking about here is on the map itself. You can see that basically you have areas that have loot categories to them, like for example, medium quality loot, high quality loot, and so on. So essentially this mission or quest requires you to go to one of these areas. The map kind of like marks it for you quite nicely with these like yellow and red symbols to kind of like show you the quality of the loot, aka also the danger that you might face there. And you simply need to walk into one of these squares, and as soon as you do that, you're going to trigger the first part of this mission, and the second part of the mission will open up saying loot 3 containers. Now, this can be any 3 containers. The point just being that you have to loot something and look inside it to take some items out. So in other words, if you're looting something off the ground or so on that's just loosely lying on the ground, this will not actually trigger this. Also, the other thing that's worth noting is that you don't necessarily have to loot these 3 containers in these high or medium value loot areas. So you can simply walk into one of these dangerous areas where you could potentially run into other players or ARC, trigger the first part of the mission, and then just run out to one of the smaller areas where you just find 3 containers and loot them. You don't actually have to extract the loot, anything like that. You literally just have to loot it. So even if you loot 3 and then fucking die, it's fine, because once you are back in the underground, you will have finished this mission and it's on to the next one. Next up is clearer skies, and this is going to be your first taste of actual combat, or required combat in that sense. And this is where Shani asks you to destroy 3 ARC enemies. This can be any 3 ARC enemies. So I mean, if you want to go after a rhino or something like that, you're more than welcome to, but this can also just be the small flyers or something like that. It can be any of the ARC enemies. So basically you have to destroy 3 of these enemies, and then you have to loot 3 ARC alloy and then extract with this for Shani. Now bear in mind, just looting this item is not enough. You actually have to successfully extract. So be sure to, even if you do see a possibility of being trapped or something like that, or too much activity around you, too many other players or something like that, even after you do this in 2 extractions or so on, rather safe than sorry, I suppose, is the word that I'm trying to use here. But the point is, gather up the 3 ARC alloy and then get to your nearest extraction and extract with this, and then basically it'll be done. The advice that I can give you is to kind of like focus on the outside of the map if you don't want to risk running into other players that are either PvPing each other or looting some of the high areas. So if you kind of like just want to dip in and grab this, I do however want to say, absolutely, you should always be trying to get into gunfights. You should be trying to play better and learn the game systems or anything. So by no means am I telling you to avoid this. However, if you do want to run the outskirts of the map, the apartments at the top or down south here, you'll oftentimes find 1 or 2 flyers flying alone by themselves, or even some of the smaller rolling robots in some of the areas like the rooms and so on, which you can pick off and quite easily loot and then just extract at your nearest if you are absolutely trying to go ghost mode and avoid other players. Once you extract with those 3 ARC alloy, you go hand it in with Shani, and then this mission is also done. The last mission for this video is going to be called Trash into Treasure. This is one of the ones which is actually going to require you to look around a bit for, right? So you're tasked with finding 2 different items, one being 6 wires and the other one being 1 battery. Now, both of these are considered electrical items, and so therefore, if you want to have the best possible chance of looting these, then you want to go to an area that is demarcated as having electrical stuff around it. Electrical substations are good for this. If you look towards the top of the map where you have the hole type area at the top there, these are areas that are demarcated as electrical areas, and therefore it has a higher chance of having wires and batteries around in this area. However, That is not to say that you can't find these items elsewhere. I, for example, specifically went to other areas and tried to source this material, and I was able to find wires in the apartments as well as batteries. So the loot is random. Be sure to not only check containers, sometimes these can be lying on shelves and chairs and stuff like that. The bottom line is oftentimes these central areas, specifically on the first map, are highly contested, and if you are trying to play ghost mode and you are trying to avoid other players and not necessarily run into any PvP, and you kind of like just want to get in and get out, then I highly advise you to check the outskirts, as well as, for example, the swamp outpost. This has several areas where you can essentially search many containers. This tends to be avoided by players that are looking for high quality loot and stuff like that. It's not to say you're not going to run into other players. I cannot guarantee that. But the bottom line that I wanted to bring to your attention with this is the fact that you actually can get this in other areas except for just going straight for the electrical demarcated areas. Another thing that's also worth noting is if you are playing with other players, or if you find someone else that's willing to help you, you can actually get progress for this mission as well by just having somebody just take the items from their inventory and just drop it for you. You pick it up and you extract with it. So this also works. So for example, if you are lucky enough to be deploying with other people and they have an abundance of this, so maybe they've already finished this mission, or they have picked up 9 fucking wires and they only need 6, they can drop 3 of their wires, you can pick it up and you'll actually get the credit. You don't necessarily have to be looting this from a container or something like that to get the credit for it. You can literally pick it up from someone else dropping it for you, which I think is very self-explanatory, but I did see some people struggling with this during the I almost said the SummerSlam, the Server Slam. So yeah, so the bottom line is, as soon as you get these 6 wires in the battery, I will say the wires are a lot easier to find than the battery. Sometimes you can struggle a little bit with the battery. However, once you do find these items, be sure to make a beeline to your nearest extraction and extract it, so you do actually get the credit for it. And as soon as you get your 6 wires and your 1 battery done with shiny, then this mission is done. And that also means that this video was done. So that covers the first 3. As I said, this is very simple, easy stuff. And I think for a lot of people, this is going to be easy and you're going to fly through this. However, I just wanted to create a video to also just set the tone of what to expect with future videos of this kind, since I'll be doing one of these for all of the quests and the missions in the game to hopefully help people be able to do this completely solo if they choose to do so, or if they have a group, to give them some advice to get through it. That's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Keep watching. Tons more content for our creators coming. Just now diving into the game. This shit is going to be awesome. At the time of this video going live, I think it's a couple of more hours until the game basically comes out. So super excited for it. I hope you guys enjoy it. Like I said, more videos to come. If you like stuff like this, go on and hit the subscribe button. I'll see you next video. And as always, fucking cheers.